Nobody dared to breathe. The billionaire's voice was cutting through the air like a blade, fast, sharp, and in Japanese. His words bounced off the gold-trimmed walls of the massive boardroom, but to the executives sitting across from him, it was just noise. Nobody understood him. The tension in that skyscraper's top-floor meeting room in Manhattan was almost physical, like you could scoop it with a spoon. At the head of the table sat Mr. Ryunosuke Takahara, one of Japan's most feared and respected business figures, CEO of Takahara Industries. In his world, deals worth hundreds of millions were closed or destroyed in an hour. He was a self-made visionary, but also famous for his volcanic temper. Everyone in the room had prepared for this meeting for months, knowing Takahara's investment could launch their struggling tech company into global dominance. But now, one catastrophic detail had been overlooked. The Japanese interpreter they had hired was stuck in Chicago due to flight cancellations, and no backup was arranged. Mr. Langford, the company's CEO, had opened with some awkward English greetings, hoping to wing it using basic phrases. It didn't work. Takahara switched fully into Japanese within minutes, pacing around the table, glaring at graphs on the screen, speaking faster each time. The executives fidgeted, whispered under their breath, frantically trying to load translation apps. Phones beeped uselessly. Nobody wanted to interrupt a billionaire mid-sentence, especially not this one. Takahara stopped mid-stride, scanned the room, and said in a slower, sharper tone, "Anata gata wa jikan no muda ni shite iru." You are wasting my time. The blood seemed to drain from Langford's face. His smile-through-anything expression was melting by the second. At the far end of the room, half hidden behind the glossy sliding door, stood Maria Santos. She was not part of the meeting. She wasn't wearing corporate attire, didn't carry a laptop, didn't have a lanyard around her neck. She wore a neat blue housekeeping uniform, holding a silver tray with porcelain teacups and steaming green tea, a welcome refreshment no one had touched. Maria was 23, working part-time for the building's facilities while saving for nursing school. She had been assigned to serve in the boardroom that morning. No one in the meeting had said more than a polite thank you to her. She was background, invisible in the way service workers often are in high-power rooms. But what no one knew about Maria was that she had an unusual skill, quietly developed over a decade. She could speak Japanese fluently. Her fascination started when she was 13. Her grandmother loved old Japanese dramas, and Maria used to watch them too, first with English subtitles, then without. She began scribbling kanji characters in old-school notebooks, then sought online lessons, practicing with Japanese exchange students she met in her coastal hometown in the Philippines. It was never supposed to matter here, in a New York skyscraper. But right now, as Takahara's voice grew colder, Maria understood every word, and she also understood the danger they were in. Takahara slammed his palm on the table. Everyone jumped. He spoke slowly this time, his voice like low thunder. If the people running this company can't speak to me directly, how can I trust them to handle a partnership in my country? Langford murmured to his deputy, I think he's angry we're not understanding him. The deputy muttered back, "No kidding. What do we do?" The silence stretched painfully. Takahara sighed, reaching for his watch, a gesture that said, "My patience is up." He turned to his bodyguards in Japanese. "Get my coat. We're leaving." Maria's heartbeat was loud in her ears. She wanted to stay quiet. It wasn't her place to step into a business negotiation. But she also knew cultural context. Japanese business deals weren't just about numbers, they were about respect. Walking away now meant this company's reputation in Japan would burn to ashes in seconds. She could still picture her grandmother's voice. "If you can prevent harm, you should try, even if it's scary." Maria inhaled deeply, slid the teacups onto the table in front of the nearest executive, and then stepped forward before she could lose her courage. Sumimasen, Takahara-san. Moshi yoroshikereba watashi ga tsuyaku itashimasu. The words rang out in the stunned silence. Excuse me, Mr. Takahara, if it's all right, I will interpret for you. Every head turned toward the young woman in the maid's uniform. Even. The billionaire blinked, caught completely off guard. Slowly, he shifted fully toward her. You speak Japanese? He asked in measured English. Maria bowed slightly. I do, sir. I studied for many years. A flicker of curiosity replaced some of the steel in Takahara's eyes. Very well, he said, switching back to Japanese. Translate exactly what I say. No changes. From that moment, the energy in the room transformed. Maria became the human bridge connecting two worlds. When Takahara explained his concerns about the company's current product design, Maria delivered his message in a calm, precise tone in English. When the executives replied with complex ideas about software integration, Maria carried them back into well-structured Japanese sentences, adjusting for subtle cultural nuances, bowing her head slightly when expressing apologies, softening certain words to prevent offense. As minutes turned into an hour, the tension dissolved. Takahara's voice grew warmer, his pace less severe. The executives began to smile, nod, engage. Laughs, genuine laughs, bubbled out once or twice over Maria's translations. By the end of the negotiation, the billionaire was leaning back in his chair, sipping the tea Maria had brought earlier, seemingly very pleased with the results. The offer that changed everything. When the contract was finally signed, the executives all but sagged in relief. Takahara turned toward Maria. His words were now slow, clear, deliberate. You saved them, you know that? Without you, this deal... gone. Maria smiled modestly. I was happy to help, sir. He leaned forward slightly. Help? No. You understood. Not just my words, but what I meant beneath them. You carried the feeling, and that is rare. Then he reached into his jacket pocket, drew out a crisp ivory business card with black Japanese lettering, and placed it in Maria's hand. This is my personal direct number. If you ever want to work for me in Japan or anywhere in my companies, call. We need people like you. The executives were stunned into silence. Here was this young woman they barely noticed an hour ago, receiving what was essentially a golden ticket to a completely different life. Maria thanked him with a bow. Takahara returned the gesture, a deep, respectful bow that very few in the room understood the weight of. And then he stepped out, flanked by his bodyguards, leaving an air of victory in his wake. When the doors closed, Langford turned to her, almost dazed. Maria, we don't just owe you thanks. We owe you millions of dollars in future profits. Maria looked down at the thick card in her hand. Its edges were sharp, the lettering elegant. She thought about her nursing school dream, about her grandmother, about the hours of study she'd put in when everyone else was asleep. She slipped the card into her pocket. That night, sitting by her apartment window with the city glowing beneath. Maria set the card gently on her desk. She wasn't sure where her future would lead, but the quiet truth settled in her heart. Sometimes the skill you think no one notices is the one that changes everything.